They didn't vote him out. They didn't face him, didn't ask questions, didn't give him a room, a reason, or a chance to respond. They just made the call. You're out. Out bad. And just like that, 14 years vanished. 1 minute he was a brother. The next, he was a ghost. That's the part no one talks about, the silence, not the violence, not the bar fights, the club wars, the miles, the silence. Because when the club turns its back on you, it doesn't do it with noise. It does it with stillness, the kind that doesn't knock, the kind that forgets you ever stood in the room. Tiny never thought it would end like that. Not after everything he gave. Not after the risks, the politics, the loyalty no one asked for but he gave anyway. But this isn't the story of how it ended. It's the story of how it all began. Why he stepped in. Why he stayed when others left. Why he chose the road, the patch, and the war no one ever saw coming. And how, when it all came crashing down, he kept standing. It started with silence. Not a fight. Not a meeting. Just silence so thick it clung to every call he didn't receive. Every message that never came. Tiny knew the rules. If they stop looking you in the eye, they're already sharpening the knife.
You don't see jealousy, you can't feel it. It's not, you might get a little feeling of it every now and then because somebody's acting weird, but it's solid. It's told behind your back. It's hidden from you. And I had no idea how powerful that was until I got voted out.
The signs were there, but subtle. Missed check-ins. Conversations that paused when he entered the room. The sudden shift from brotherhood to business. He'd been around long enough to recognize when the air changes, when respect turns cold and history doesn't matter. But he never thought it would happen to him. 14 years, not a blemish on his name. He didn't rise through fear. He earned it, mile after mile, handshake after handshake. Tiny was the guy they called when things went sideways. The one who rode out first and locked the gate last. And now, they couldn't even look him in the face? The call came on a quiet Thursday evening. Not from an officer, not from a brother, just a man with a message. Flat. Final. You're done. Out bad.
Okay, and they always ask us guys that got voted out, hey, why are you still haunting this thing? Why does this thing still bother you? Because it's unfinished business. Okay, you've got your whole plans and your life and all this energy you've put into this, and you're going somewhere with it, and all of a sudden it gets ripped away from you, taken away. And we had one man, one vote, 100% in, 100% out was the rule.
Tiny didn't speak. He didn't need to. Somewhere deep down, he'd already heard it coming. But hearing it, feeling it land in your chest after everything you gave, that's something else entirely.
I was told, hey, if you'll just give it up, we'll put you out as left. I said, listen, it took 10 real Hell's Angels to put this vest on my back. It'll take 10 to come get it off. That's not the right answer when you're trying not to be put out in bad terms. That was the wrong answer.
His vest hung on the wall in front of him, still smeared with oil and road dust. The patch looked smaller now. Not because it meant less, but because the men behind it did. In the days that followed, the silence deepened. Brothers ghosted him. Prospects he mentored wouldn't return a nod. And every memory that used to bring pride now cut a little deeper. He could have tossed the vest, could have burned it, could have posted some bitter takedown like others before him. But Tiny wasn't wired like that. He didn't need to shout. He didn't need revenge. All he needed was the road. And with the club behind him and no one left to trust, that's exactly where he went. Forward. Hey brothers, tired of YouTube's BS and censorship? It's time to break free. That's why I've shifted gears to Patreon, where I can bring you the raw, uncensored content you crave. Join my Patreon crew and get an insane package deal. Exclusive early access to all videos, days before YouTube, 100% ad-free viewing experience. Uncensored, no-holds-barred community discussions, double the content. 2 killer videos every single week. VIP access, direct interaction with yours truly, inside scoop, exclusive biker world updates you won't find anywhere else. Ready to join the elite? Hit that Patreon link now. Your support doesn't just keep us rolling, it fuels a revolution of uncensored, unrestricted content. Join now and unlock a world of exclusive benefits. He never planned to wear a patch. Tiny's story didn't start with clubhouses or charter votes. It started in the back roads of South Carolina, on a bike he wasn't supposed to be riding.
I had a really cool uncle, and my father bought a KZ 750 off of him when I was 14 years old. So I would sneak whenever, hey man, I'm Gen X. I was a latchkey kid. So everybody was gone when I got home from school. So I just started riding that motorcycle and learning how to ride. And
the first time he took his dad's Kawasaki out, he didn't even make it past the gas station before stalling and nearly dropping it. But he didn't turn back. That's the thing about Tiny. He never turned back.
I kept going for a long time, and my dad tried to ride it one day, and he fell over in a church parking lot, and he asked me, "Do you think you can ride this thing home?" And I said, "I don't know, I'll try." So I jumped on the bike. I took off, and he's like, "Man, you're just a natural at that." I said, yeah. Well, years later, he admitted to me that I knew you'd been riding that bike because it was the only thing in that garage that didn't have any dust on it.
He didn't grow up angry, just unfinished. Football gave him discipline. Wrestling gave him pain tolerance.
I had been put into sports, church. I had been in some type of fraternity or organization my entire life. RAs, Boy Scouts, all the way to Eagle Scout. In high school, it was wrestling, it was football, it was constantly around a group of guys being part of a team. When I got old enough, of course, I went to college. I even played a little football at Clemson.
But nothing gave him that stillness until he felt the wind clawing through his shirt at 60 miles per hour. Everything else, the scholarships, the team talks, the future his coaches saw for him became noise. He didn't want to chase a scoreboard. He wanted the road to open up and swallow him whole. So he walked away from the field and straight into the chaos most people spend their lives avoiding. Started working doors, strip clubs, bars, garages. He saw the patch guys come in.
So I started bouncing in a strip club, met a bunch of bikers, thought they were the coolest people in the world. The more I hung out with them, the more I had in common with them, and they gave me that fraternity. They gave me that brotherhood. They taught me how not to leave anybody behind. And
Tiny watched how they moved, not just the power, but the brotherhood. The unspoken code. The kind you either lived by or didn't belong. Hang around, kept his mouth shut, never asked for attention. Just showed up again and again, while others burned out or bragged themselves into exile.
But always just had that group of guys and being around guys. So when I started meeting patched bikers, that was kind of the it for me, because you see a group of guys that rode together, that were very tight, that communicated with each other. If you messed with one guy at the bar, you messed with him. But if you messed with these guys, you were messing with all of them. And it was just that same power that you had when you went on a football field, or that same power you had when you went camping with a group of guys. So that just kind of got me into it, had me prepared for it, and I just wanted to do that and wanted to be that.
Eventually, he bought his first Harley, a rough, oil-dripping FLT shovelhead with a 5-speed. When someone needed help, he was already there. When something needed fixing, he didn't ask for tools. He brought his own. By the time they asked if he wanted to prospect, he'd already made his decision months earlier. He didn't want a title. He wanted something that couldn't be faked, And for the first time in his life, it felt like the road had direction. He didn't expect loyalty to come easy, but he believed deep down that once it came, it stayed. That belief would cost him more than he could imagine. When Tiny patched in, he didn't celebrate. He just nodded once, same as always, like it was just another brick in the wall. From South Carolina to Tennessee, he became the kind of man other members called first, not just for muscle, but for judgment, for presence, for peace. Because while most saw the patch as power, Tiny saw it as responsibility.
It was a true fraternity and brotherhood to me, so I treated it as such. And it made me better. Learning, prospecting taught me the disciplines that I needed to go on to some great things in my life. I went back and finished my college degree. I found the love of my life and had a beautiful child. Many great things happened to me after the drug scene and after, all of the gang scene and the thug scene and all of these things that you go through as a man getting to a 1% club.
He'd ride 1,000 miles for a funeral, show up first to patch-ins, last to leave during lockdowns. He knew the rules, and more importantly, he lived them. Never touch another man's bike, never leave your brother behind, and always answer the damn phone when a call came in.
I had guys that when we would get back from a run, hey, call me when you get home. Hey, how's your mom doing? Hey, how's your kids doing? How's your bench press look? Have you gotten any faster with that knife pull? Whatever. It was always concerning each other. And the group I had was, do what you say what you do, mean it. So I had a lot of those lessons already learned when I got there. So I knew what traps not to fall in. Now, leadership at a higher level, that was a new thing for me. Power was a new thing for me. I never experienced any power outside of my own. But once you become an officer and you gain all this rank, and then all of a sudden people are asking you life questions. Like, you're supposed to tell them what to do. And I always just gave people the tools and gave them the knowledge and let them make up their own decisions in their own minds for themselves.
But what set Tiny apart wasn't how he rode, it was how he negotiated. And for Tiny, that moment came fast. South Carolina was stable, but Tennessee, that was raw territory. Not just terrain, but tension. Clubs brushing up against each other. Bars with invisible lines you didn't cross. Old beefs that hadn't gone cold. It didn't take much to light a match, and everyone knew it. So when the talk of expansion came, Tiny didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and said, "I'll go." Why? Why volunteer for something that could have gone south the moment his wheels hit a rival's curb? Why step into a powder keg no one else wanted to touch? Because someone had to, and because that's who he was.
I was always that front line brother. I was always the brother that, hey, if there was a problem with another club, I was the first one in every single time. And when I got asked to be part of a group of men that were trying to negotiate with the Outlaws Motorcycle Club, I said, why are you guys asking me? Why would you want me to go from being, a warrior to being a peacemaker? And they voted me to do the job.
He didn't ride in swinging. He rode in listening. Watched how the outlaws moved. Studied the town before planting any colors. He knew this wasn't just about establishing turf. It was about preventing a war before it ever started. So he made a call. Reached across the line most men wouldn't dare approach and said, "Let's talk." Not as enemies, not as allies, but as men who know what's at stake. And it worked.
The outlaw and I bonded over that moment, and we realized, hey, if we don't lie to each other, if we don't bullshit each other, if we don't try to politic each other, if we just tell each other the damn truth, we're after the same thing. That's the safety and the growth of both of our clubs. So with that, we built a relationship.
Harley dealerships welcomed him.
Had Harley Davidson dealerships lined up glad to see us coming to those areas in Tennessee where there wasn't a solid motorcycle club presence that was doing good things.
Local charters respected him. Even rival clubs started to understand he was there to build something that lasted.
And we went from looking at each other's facial expressions when we were talking to see if they were lying about how many miles it was to a meeting, to now we actually trust each other's judgment. Whenever something would come up, we had solid proof before we even made a phone call. And we didn't sugarcoat anything. We laid it right out there.
But back home, that piece didn't look like leadership. It looked like weakness. They saw a man getting too close to the enemy. And once doubt takes root, does it ever stop growing? Was he building something for the club or for himself? Still, he kept going. Tennessee needed a charter. The South needed a foundation, and he was ready to pour the concrete.
So anyway, this led into Tennessee. Been trying to push into Tennessee and Georgia since I've been in the club. Nobody's growing. Nobody's getting outside of their comfort zone. Nobody's going anywhere. Nobody's doing anything, especially the right way. We hear all the propaganda about the other clubs doing things the wrong way. We hear all the things about how they're just throwing patches on people, how they're selling their patches, how they're doing this wrong and they're doing that wrong. Okay, well, let's do it right.
Tiny felt it all. In how meetings shifted. In how his calls got shorter. In how the same men he fought beside started whispering when he walked past. And slowly, something shifted. He was still carrying the flag, but now it felt heavier than it used to. It didn't happen all at once. There was no blowout meeting, no dramatic vote. Just a slow, creeping shift like cold air slipping under a locked door. At first, Tiny thought he was imagining it. The sideways glances, the missed calls, the quiet when he stepped into the room. He'd been loyal for over a decade. He thought that meant something. But loyalty, it turns out, is only respected when it stays quiet. And Tiny? He wasn't built to stay quiet. He asked questions. Why was the Tennessee charter being stalled? Why weren't calls getting returned? Why were certain names left out of things that used to come straight to his phone? No one gave answers. They just shifted in their seats and changed the subject.
In my mind, I was truly having a productive relationship with a member of the Outlaws that was benefiting the Hells Angels. Then you have a political truth. The political truth was this Hells Angel Tiny's getting along too good with the Outlaws. They're too buddy-buddy. He's having too good a time with them guys. Okay? So that was the political truth. Then you have the objective truth. Okay? The objective truth is true no matter what anybody thinks. But you know how long it takes to prove it? Way past the time that the political truth has already made a decision, right or wrong, and an action has been taken.
So he did what no one expected. He flew to California, showed up, uninvited, at a meeting where real decisions got made, walked into that room without backup, without warning, without fear. And he said, "If you've got a problem with me, say it here."
I'm that guy that if you tell me, hey, I don't understand what Tiny's doing, I got a problem with what Tiny's doing, I'm not going to email you. I'm going to be knocking on the door and we're going to talk. Because I don't want there to be any misrepresentation or misunderstanding. I don't want you reading my words in your voice or your wife's voice or that cop's voice. I want you to read it in my voice. I want you to hear what I have to say.
But no one did, because the decision wasn't being debated. It had already been made. The room was polite, too polite, and when Tiny left, he knew what was coming. But still, he held on to hope. Maybe it was fixable, maybe someone would call. Maybe 14 years meant more than a few months of whispers. But then the silence came back, louder this time. And then one night the call came. It wasn't official. It wasn't respectful. It was a voice he barely recognized saying the words like they were reading from a script. "You're out bad." Tiny hung up without replying. Because what do you say to men who can't look you in the eye? The war he worked so hard to keep outside the club had already started inside it. After 14 years in the club, there was no send-off. No one came by the house. No one called to say it's a damn shame. One day, Tiny was part of something bigger than himself. The next, it was like he never existed.
This is how bad it was. I had a flat tire on my bike when I was going to visit somebody. I'm on the side of the road with a flat tire, and I have no idea who I'm going to call to come pick me up. That is a bad feeling.
He kept riding anyway. The road was quieter now. No more phone calls, no more check-ins, just long stretches of highway and a vest that still hung in the garage, patch untouched. He never burned it, never posted online, never ranted, because that's not how you carry history. You carry it in silence when you pass by the bars where you used to run security, when you see a crew roll by and recognize their formation, when you wake up early out of habit, even though no one's waiting for you. But instead of folding under it, he stepped back into himself. The process wasn't noble. It was brutal. He had to relearn how to exist without orders, without calls, without the patch on his back giving him access, status, and protection. He returned to his family with calloused hands and a quiet heart, unsure of how to show up as a father without club schedules or patched obligations.
You learn that, hey, oh my God, I have missed all this time with my family.
That's a big one.
I've wrecked other parts of my life because I was giving so much to this club that just a couple of jealous guys on a bad night decided I wasn't a Hell's Angel anymore. You know, now what do I do? Now where do I go?
So he joined the Sons of Confederate Veterans, not for nostalgia or image, but because he needed structure again, something to anchor him that wasn't soaked in politics or pride. He traced his roots, reconnected with a long-lost family, and for the first time, began building something that couldn't be voted away. But the adjustment wasn't clean. After years of being the man people feared or followed, now he stood in hardware stores and grocery aisles, unknown, untethered, and learning what it meant to move through the world as a man without a patch, without backup, and without certainty. Still, he walked tall, because even though the club stripped him of everything they couldn't rewrite the truth. They couldn't change the fact that he'd built something real, and they damn sure couldn't erase the man who never bowed. Not to politics, not to pressure, not to betrayal. Tiny lost the patch, but he kept his name. And that, in the end, is what still echoes when he rides.